Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm honored to be here with these panelists from Quebec. So we do have I believe, the partner country next year. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm honored to be here with these panelists from Quebec. So we do have I believe, the partner country next year for the fair, which is Canada. And this is the starting point here to get linked to the new upcoming data spaces that we're building up. They will be a means to also support AI. And you're coming all from a background which is gaming. And so you bring into the programming and establishment of new apps a new perspective, the gamification. But let me first introduce you. So we have Alexis Goudreau. He's the Business Development Director of LiveLine by Premier Tech. He's replacing today the unfortunate Vincent, who's sick, who's suffering a flu.
I'll do my best.
Thank you very much. Michel Besnard, Vice President Business Development and Strategy at Preview 3D, with over 30 years of experience building innovative and game-changing products. And we have Taqi Alimat, co-founder and CEO of Synode. And he's coming with a background combining programming and visual arts expertise. Adine founded Synode to redefine the creation and sharing of complex information through 3D and augmented reality interactivity. So very thrilling subjects and really bringing in new perspective to programming applications like simulations or online monitoring tools, which can be needed, could be needed in manufacturing X. So the three of you, I would like you now to introduce your products and your company. We will start with Alexis.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. First, Dr. Ruski, it's an honor to be on stage with you. I apologize for Vincent. Unfortunately, he's sick this morning. It's been a long week. We at LiveLine, we developed a software for our own need. We are at first an equipment manufacturers in the end of line of packaging, so open mouth baggers, palletizer, that kind of stuff. And we were looking for a solution to do our layouts and do our proposal to our customer in 3D. There are already a lot of CAD software, 3D CAD software on the market. We were having all of them pretty much that we were purchasing, but most of our team members were not using it to send their first proposal when they received a request from a customer. Why? Because it was time-consuming, painful, very technical to use, and it was taking days to do just a simple layout. So we developed LiveLine with Unreal Engine, which is a video game engine. And our goal was to recreate, if you like, the video game Sims, but for equipment manufacturers' purpose. And that's what we did. So we just drag and drop the equipment onto the scene. Everything can be stretchable. You even have a feel of a video game when you are in it. So which is pretty cool for our users. And what we saw, the first 2 years of the development of the program was just for ourselves. We've been using it, and we saw so many great success. Then it was clear for us that we have to sell this to other equipment manufacturers, but even integrators or manufacturers who needs to change their layout sometimes. So yeah, that is LiveLine.
Thanks a lot. Michel.
My turn, yeah. So Michel Besnard, the VP of Product at Preview 3D. Again, we're also a company that uses game technology as well as AI and other elements to really change how you can understand your manufacturing site. So we take basically 3D scanning data and we create a highly accurate digital twin that can be used across the whole manufacturing process, whether you're doing different design iterations to your facility or changing the production line, and that's where there's a lot of connectivity between Preview 3D and Premier Tech, but also how you can use this to better manage your facility, how there's a lot of information stored into a manufacturing data center. How do you make that contextually visible? And that's what we do, creating a true photorealistic environment using gaming technology, making tools easy to use. Instead of making complexity hard, it's making complexity simple to be operated.
Thank you, Michel. Adine, it's your turn.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Taqi Alimat, co-founder and CEO of Synode. We all here have already assembled furniture in the past or equipment as employees in factories, and we did use paper-based documentation to do that. We used to decode and decipher what we saw as drawings, technical drawings. And as humans, we are highly visual, and it's hard sometimes to visualize what was in the head of the engineer or the technical designer that created these. We developed a software that allows manufacturers to reuse these CAD files to transform them into interactive, step-by-step instructions, maintenance, and training modules that are highly captivating and easily usable to do the procedure, which is a task, or even as an end user, assemble an equipment. So this is Synode in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Very interesting. Now the main topic today is not only manufacturing, but also gamification and the link in between. So my question would be, because it's probably new for many machine building companies, gamification. Michel, how would you define gamification and what do we infer with it?
Absolutely. So gamification has different meanings for a lot of people, but really it's about how you can use gaming technologies and gaming concepts to change how we use our tools. And we don't realize that much in everyday lives, but the new generation grew up with a game console in their hands. They play Mario Kart, and you don't see kids taking years of training to how to run a racing kart with Mario Kart or other simulation games and other things. The training is within the game, and it's intuitive, it's instant, and it's highly visual. So the new generation of workforce is really much about that concept. So if you bring them in a very complex, data-heavy, non-visual environment, it's going to be a struggle. And we're seeing from our customers where they're telling us we need to change how we make these tools accessible. And so the tools need to change, but also these same technologies that are used to create games can be used to do these new tools. So Premier Tech, ourselves, and these companies as well is great examples where the game technology and the game concepts are used to build new types of application that are visual, interactive, easy to learn. Like our customers can learn our product in a few hours and they know how to use it. It's not that it's a simple product as much as that the complexity has been hidden from the interface.
Thanks a lot, Michel. Very interesting. Now, before we come to the discussion, let me shortly explain what Manufacturing X is all about. So basically, the term Manufacturing X describes an initiative by the German government started in the recent years to support the digitalization of the German companies, and then it goes more into Europe and it needs to go globally. And Manufacturing X has the aim to develop interoperable open data spaces to establish a new type of communication and data exchanging, not communication so much, but data exchanging. When you look at the centralized concepts like the platforms you can see today in the B2C business, there's a centralized storage of data and the exchange always goes via the centralized platform. Also the apps that you get, like on the iPhone, are coming from a centralized platform. So companies heavily relying on IP often hesitate to exchange data via a platform. And this is where Manufacturing X or the data spaces come into place, where the data exchange is bilateral or multilateral in between two participants or more than that, based on a contract that you have closed before you exchange the data. So you know with whom you change the data for a purpose and for what period of time. And that gives you the control over the data, of your own data and over your IP. You have under control with whom you exchange the data. And furthermore, you can have the data per system still on your side. You can bring the app to the data that gives you a result out of a calculation, for instance, made based on AI, and you just transfer then the result of this calculation. And this is more IP preserving than before, and you stay as the sovereign over your data. This shall stimulate the exchange of data, and the data is there in the industry. It's based on data coming from the processes, from the production processes, based on the rotation speed, whatsoever, the availability of the machine, and then you have the horizontal data change in the value chain and the process chain of producing a part, and also in the whole value chain. And combining all this data gives the chance to produce, to establish new products, to create new values, and to then support your competitiveness in your company, to improve the sustainability, and it should really establish a data ecosystem that is a stimulus to exchanging data and making products better in the end, and then giving a benefit to all of us. So the question is, what kind of link could we have between gamification and manufacturing? For instance, we can imagine we have a traceability use case, or we have a use case where we monitor the production inside a plant. So question to you is, could you imagine a use case which can benefit from the gamification approach?
Yes, yeah, and as you mentioned, Dr. Mark, we're living in a great area where we have a tremendous amount of data coming from different points in the company. But these data, especially in terms of the 3D data themselves, are hard to centralize and enrich to make them a powerful, engaging tool for the workforce in terms of training, but also for the end users in terms of utilization. We can, for instance, take an example on the automotive industry, an example that you're familiar with, where in the factory you have a lot of processes that need still training for the employees, and having a layer of gamifications on top of the 3D interactivity in the form of quizzes, interactive questions, to monitor the knowledge transfer inside the organizations, to monitor the number of quality problems that has been resolved with these new tools, are advocates of the health that these technologies bring to the company. But these same 3D files are actually and essentially the same that can make the life of the end customer, the partner that sells this product, easier, because they're able to centralize, use them for marketing, to enhance sales, and also to provide a post-purchase experience that is impeccable. As Michel said, gamification leverages the use of game design to add badges, rewards, leaderboards, and all of these items brings a new level in terms of interactivity and enhancing the experience and making it closer to the human experience. So this is how the gamification is going to be a strong motor of innovation in the coming years in the manufacturing space and other spaces as well, but the manufacturing space especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And to his point is that data is everywhere. And I think the common mistake is to want to move data someplace else to centralize. And I think there's too many systems out there that if you can centralize, okay, it's a good idea, but in reality, it's more about connecting the dots between the information. And so if you have a specific asset in your facility, that asset will have multiple visual representation. You'll have a CAD version, you will have a representation from a scanned environment, you'll have other information, you have underlying enterprise data, there's operational data, there's hundreds of systems that have elements of this. And the gamification is also about providing visual context for that, right? Because if you show someone that's in maintenance a CAD version of the asset, might not be compelling for them. You show them a picture or a 3D mesh version of that same asset, you will recognize the machine that he does maintenance on. So providing accessibility to data and context through a highly visual layer is all about gamification, right? It's the visual experience that you're creating that gives you the data you need when you need it with the right visual component.
Okay, thanks a lot. Alexi?
Well, for LiveLine, I would say that we try to remove like all the simulation aspect of the 3D software that we see. So of course, we remove like a lot of data from the equipment, if you like. Of course, that information is always accessible, but for us, we saw that there's a lot of simulation tools around the world. It's a red ocean. A lot of companies are making great tools to do that, but in a lot of industries, I would say probably 90% of the industries, you don't need to do simulation to have a line process, because if you say let's say you're bagging some stuff, well, if you make one bag less per hour of oat, let's say, it's not that big of a deal. I understand that in automobile that is really important, but for us truly, the aspect of gamification is the pace, the fast, how quick it is, how easy it is. Like even our kids can use our software. That was our goal at first. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. So basically what you're saying is that you can establish an additional visual layer which is simple, easy to use, and you can push it through the value chain to give benefit to everybody along the value chain in terms of this gamification aspect, simplifying and improving the usability. Also making training easier along the value chain, so having someone in production who is doing maintenance, having using the visual layer to be easier or to get an easier training on the product, as well as later on at the end customer. If it's a car, for instance, it would be in the consumer layer that you have also the same visual representation that you can use.
Exactly, and you see, for example, there's going to be interesting synergies, right? So you look at, if you have a scanned version of the asset, and in our case we call that reality assets, well, you can have a link to training and documentation. You can have a link to a design layout that's been done in Premier Tech, right? So you're certainly connecting these elements in where it makes sense for the different workflow in the enterprise.
Yeah, and making sure that you can transfer those information into another tool, because one of the biggest problem I think companies have is we want one tool that can do everything.
Yeah.
That will not happen. So we need to be able to share that information through other software and to work together, because when we try to do everything, we do everything then.
And actually, it's interesting because before the panel, we're just chatting because in my past career, I was in entertainment, and I'm one of the co-creators of the FBX file format, which is actually used quite a lot in manufacturing today.
Right.
And their tools is using FBX. We support FBX as well, and there's a lot of products out there that use FBX as an interchange format. And that's another great example where a format created initially for entertainment, video games, visual effects, and movies is actually being used in manufacturing very frequently today.
Right. On the other word,
the keyword you mentioned, and I like that a lot, is synthesis.
Yes.
Because right now we're getting from the siloification of data in different warehouses that are used by the specific teams, but the intercommunications and the leveraging of these files, we're not there yet. It's coming, and our solutions, from what I see, are contributing to this tremendously. And what I like about this is the siloing, if this is a word, where a marketing expert, an engineer, customer service, as well as the programmers are all contributing in the same platforms to make sure that the 3D data are leveraged and deployed to many different use cases for the benefits of the actual company. And we're getting in an interesting, fascinating era where we're integrating more and more and making a better and stronger synthesis.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. You brought up a very interesting aspect, which is the scale. Well, we say scaling is based on interoperability, and that is based on speaking the same language. So what we need in this data space communication is using the same technical basis, which is for the machine communication, OPC UA, and which is for the value chain data transfer, the asset administration shell, which is, for instance, the home of the digital twin. So this is an important aspect, talking the same language along the value chain and within the fab, the factory, for every machine, talking to the upper layer, also to the visual layer then later on. Coming to another aspect, what are the potential risks, including gamification aspects in the visualization of, let's say, a process within the machine? Do you see any risks involved which should be mitigated?
Well, I think some of the risk is trying to go too fast, right? It's there is a change in how things needs to be done. Obviously, if you're using traditional, more, archaic, from a gamification perspective tools, you cannot just come in and change the whole workflow. We recommend usually with our customers to take an iterative process. There's sort of a maturity stage in having a digital twin, right? And a lot of companies, even big ones today, are still very early. They're still just in a discovery stage. And if you start talking about making a huge transformation, that scares people off. And actually, in our case, we often do very simple proof of concept. We'll go in and we'll send someone to scan a small area, create a very limited digital twin, and then suddenly they have a living example of what they can do. And that's hugely valuable as you're educating internally the company, getting stakeholders on board, and have more people go through the journey of maturing and understanding what this means for them, instead of trying to push something too hard and then that basically doesn't make it happen properly.
Okay.
Like we say, when you want to eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So that's what I recommend to companies who wants to bring gamification tool in their businesses. You don't have to spend $1 million to start your project. We know that it happens in the past. We saw like crazy stuff being selling for us. It's truly important. Like start little, try if you like it, learn about it, see what's your goal with it, and then we can push further. But I would say, there's no rush. Take the time to analyze. There's a lot of stuff on the market. Some are good, some will not be good. We'll see at the end. Yeah. But for sure, we need to get the knowledge inside the company, and sometimes it can take time.
I can summarize it to start small, as you said, see big and go fast, and especially fail faster. You need different iterations until you make a good process that is scalable and that will allow the generalization of these new technologies in a harmonious way in the organization.
Thank you very much. So we are at the end of the time of the panel, and I thank you very much for this very interesting discussion. And Marianne, would you like to say something about next year, or is it?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, everyone.